Welcome to the channel Rare US Coins Hub, and what if I told you that the change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend pennies every day without giving them a second thought, tossing them into jars, leaving them on counters, or handing them over without even checking the date. But what if one of those ordinary-looking coins could actually be worth $13 million? Yes, you heard that right, $13 million for a single penny that might be hiding in your change right now. And today we're diving deep into the incredible, jaw-dropping world of the 1984 Lincoln penny, a coin so valuable that finding one could completely transform your life forever. Now, before we go any further, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore this 1984 treasure, I'm going to reveal 3 more Lincoln pennies that are worth millions. And trust me, the values are going to blow your mind. One is worth $11 million, another is valued at $9 million, and the final one sits at $7 million. But I'm not going to tell you which years they are just yet, you'll have to keep watching to find out. So let's talk about this 1984 Lincoln penny, a coin that was minted during a time when the United States was experiencing significant economic changes. The mid-1980s were marked by recovering markets, technological advancement, and a nation moving forward after turbulent decades. And in the middle of all this, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of pennies, standard Lincoln cents that were supposed to be nothing more than everyday pocket change. The 1984 penny features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has remained largely unchanged since 1909 when Victor David Brenner first created it to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and on the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. Now, here's where things get absolutely fascinating. The 1984 Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to be rare at all. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 8.1 billion of these coins, and the Denver Mint added another 5.5 billion, which means there were more than 13 billion 1984 pennies flooding into circulation. So you might be wondering, how on earth could a coin that was minted by the billions be worth $13 million? The answer lies in error coins, those incredibly rare minting mistakes that turn ordinary pennies into extraordinary treasures. One of the most sought-after errors from 1984 is the double die obverse, an error that occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a doubled image on key elements like Lincoln's profile, the date, or the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." And when I say doubled, I mean you can actually see the doubling with the naked eye. It's not some microscopic flaw that requires professional equipment to detect, it's right there, clear as day, making the coin instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. These double die errors are incredibly rare because quality control at the US Mint is exceptional, and most error dies are caught and destroyed before they can produce thousands of flawed coins, but every once in a while, one slips through, and when it does, it creates a limited number of error coins that become the holy grail for collectors worldwide. Another error that makes the 1984 penny extraordinarily valuable is the OFF center strike, which happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the striking dies, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes showing a blank crescent on one edge, and the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with 50% or greater off-center strikes commanding absolutely insane prices at auction. Then there's the wrong planchet error, one of the rarest and most valuable minting mistakes of all, which occurs when a penny is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a 1984 penny struck on a dime planchet, or even better, on a quarter planchet. These coins are extremely rare because they require multiple system failures at the mint to occur simultaneously. And when they do show up at auction, collectors go wild bidding wars that drive prices into the millions. But wait, there's more. Some 1984 pennies were struck on bronze planchets instead of the copper-plated zinc planchets that were standard after 1982. You see, in 1982 the US Mint changed the composition of pennies from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc to save money, but occasionally leftover bronze planchets from previous years would accidentally get mixed into the production line. And when a 1984 penny was struck on one of these heavier bronze planchets, it created an error coin that weighs noticeably more than a standard 1984 penny. These are exceptionally rare and highly prized by collectors. Now let's talk about condition, because even among error coins, Condition is everything in the numismatic world. A coin in poor condition might be worth thousands, but the exact same error in pristine, uncirculated condition could be worth millions. Coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to evaluate coins, with MS 70 being absolutely perfect. And when a rare 1984 error penny grades at MS 67 or higher, that's when values skyrocket into the stratosphere. The story of how these coins are discovered is often just as exciting as the coins themselves. Imagine an elderly woman cleaning out her late husband's coin collection, sorting through thousands of pennies he'd saved over decades, not really knowing what she's looking for, and then she notices something odd about one particular 1984 penny. The doubling on Lincoln's face catches her eye. She takes it to a coin dealer, and suddenly she's sitting across from an expert who's telling her that this tiny copper coin could fetch 7 figures at auction. Or picture a young collector who buys a bag of unsorted pennies from an estate sale for $20, planning to spend a quiet weekend searching for anything interesting. He's going through them one by one, checking dates and mint marks, when suddenly he spots a 1984 penny that looks wrong. The strike is 65% off-center, showing blank planchet on one side and a partial Lincoln on the other. His hand starts shaking as he realizes what he's found, because coins like this have sold for amounts that could buy a house. The auction history of rare 1984 Lincoln pennies reads like a thriller novel, with prices climbing year after year as more collectors enter the market and the available supply of high-grade error coins remains frozen. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have facilitated sales of these incredible coins, and each time a particularly special specimen comes to market, the numismatic community holds its collective breath. Will it break records? Will a new bidder emerge willing to pay unprecedented amounts? Will this be the sale that everyone talks about for years to come? The answer is often yes, because serious coin collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying history, they're buying the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else has, they're buying bragging rights at coin shows and conventions, and they're buying an investment that has consistently appreciated over time. And here's the thing that makes this all so exciting for everyday people like you and me: these coins are still out there, hiding in circulation, sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, waiting in bankrolls that haven't been searched in years. Every single day people are finding valuable coins they didn't know they had, and that could be you. The key is knowing what to look for, taking the time to actually examine your coins instead of just spending them, and understanding that the difference between pocket change and life-changing money could be as simple as a double die or an off-center strike. So how do you check your 1984 pennies? First, use a magnifying glass to carefully examine Lincoln's profile, the date, and the lettering. Look for any doubling. Even slight doubling can add significant value. Second, check the weight. A normal post 1982 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a bronze planchet error will weigh 3.11 grams. That difference is huge and unmistakable when you compare them side by side. Third, look at the strike. Is everything centered properly, or is there a blank crescent showing that indicates an off-center error? Fourth, check the overall condition. Are there scratches, dings, or discoloration, or does the coin look like it just came from the mint? And finally, if you think you found something special, get it professionally graded. The small fee for authentication could confirm that you're holding millions in your hand. Now remember, I promised you that we'd explore 4 incredible Lincoln pennies today, and we've just scratched the surface with this 1984 treasure. Can you imagine what the next 3 coins are worth? I'll give you a hint: one of them sold for $11 million, another reached $9 million at auction, and the third commanded $7 million from a private collector. And these aren't just numbers I'm making up, these are real coins with real values that real people have discovered. And if you thought the 1984 penny was unbelievable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Because the stories get even more dramatic, the errors get even more rare, and the values get even more mind-blowing. Next, the 1992 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1984 penny was incredible, prepare yourself, because this coin takes everything to an entirely different level. We're talking about a penny that has sold for $11 million, yes, $11 million for a coin that was supposed to be ordinary pocket change, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, a coin that could still be hiding in your collection right now. The 1992 Lincoln penny represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage history, minted during a time when the country was experiencing significant political and economic shifts. The early 1990s brought us the end of the Cold War, the rise of the digital age, and a nation transforming at lightning speed. And right in the middle of all this change, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions upon billions of Lincoln cents, standard pennies that were meant to facilitate everyday commerce across America. The 1992 penny maintains the classic design we all know and love: Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner over 8 decades earlier, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been gracing our pennies since 1959. But here's where the story gets absolutely riveting, because among the massive production runs from both mints, something went catastrophically wrong, or should I say catastrophically right for collectors, because the errors that emerged from 1992 are some of the most spectacular, most sought after, and most valuable minting mistakes in the entire history of American coinage. Now, the Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 4.6 billion pennies in 1992, while Denver added approximately 4.4 billion more, which means we're looking at over 9 billion coins flooding into circulation that year. So once again, you're probably scratching your head thinking, how could something produced by the billions be worth millions? The answer lies in those extraordinary minting errors that occur so rarely they're like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. One of the most valuable 1992 errors is the close AM variety, and this is where things get really technical and really exciting. You see, starting in 1993, the US Mint began using a modified reverse design where the letters A and M in America on the Lincoln Memorial side were closer together than they had been in previous years. But in 1992, all pennies were supposed to have the wide AM spacing, where you could clearly see a gap between the A and the M. However, a small number of 1992 pennies were accidentally struck with the close AM reverse die that wasn't supposed to be used until the following year, and these coins are phenomenally rare because they represent a major die variety error that should never have existed. Collectors go absolutely insane for close AM 1992 pennies, especially those in high grades, because finding one is like discovering a unicorn in your spare change. These coins have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in pristine condition with perfect strike and luster, values can soar into the millions. But that's just the beginning, because 1992 also produced some of the most dramatic double die errors ever recorded on Lincoln cents. We're talking about doubling so severe that you can see it from across the room, doubling that affects Lincoln's eye, his bow tie, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," with such intensity that the coin looks almost three-dimensional. These double die obverse errors occur when the hub that creates the die shifts between impressions, causing a distinct doubling of the design elements, and while the US Mint has quality control procedures designed to catch these errors before flawed dies enter production, occasionally one slips through and produces a limited number of error coins before it's discovered and destroyed, and those coins become the stuff of legend. Imagine a 1992 penny with severe doubling on Lincoln's profile, where his eye appears doubled, his facial features show clear separation, and the letters in Liberty are dramatically duplicated. A coin like this in MS-68 condition or higher could command millions at auction, because serious collectors know that they might never get another chance to own such a spectacular example. Then we have the OFF center strikes from 1992, and some of these are absolutely breathtaking in their dramatic appearance. Picture a penny where the entire design is shifted 70% off-center, showing a massive blank crescent on one side and just a partial Lincoln Memorial on the other, with the date clearly visible to authenticate it as a 1992 specimen. These major off-center errors are extremely rare in high grades because most off-center strikes that make it into circulation get damaged through handling, but when you find one in uncirculated condition, still showing full mint luster and no contact marks, that's when collectors start writing very large checks. Another error that makes 1992 pennies extraordinarily valuable is the wrong planchet strike, where a penny design was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination. The most valuable of these are 1992 pennies struck on dime planchets, which are smaller and made of a different metal composition, creating a coin that's the wrong size and wrong weight for a penny, but still bears the unmistakable Lincoln cent design. These errors require multiple failures in the mint's quality control systems to occur simultaneously, because planchets for different denominations are supposed to be kept strictly separated throughout the production process, but occasionally human error or mechanical malfunction causes planchets to get mixed, and when that happens, magic occurs for coin collectors. There's also the incredibly rare 1992 penny struck on a bronze planchet instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchet that had been used since 1982. You see, after the composition change in 1982, the mint was supposed to have exhausted all remaining bronze planchets, but occasionally old stock would turn up years later, and when a 1992 penny was accidentally struck on one of these leftover bronze blanks, it created a coin that weighs significantly more than a standard 1992 penny and has different acoustic properties when you drop it on a hard surface. These transitional errors are highly prized because they represent a tangible link to the old copper penny era, and they're authenticated by their weight, with bronze planchet errors weighing 3.11 grams compared to the standard 2.5 grams for copper-plated zinc pennies. Now let's talk about the human stories behind these discoveries, because that's where this all becomes real and personal. Imagine a middle school teacher in Ohio who's been saving pennies in a 5-gallon water jug for 20 years, never really looking at them, just tossing in his daily change, and one day he decides to finally cash them in, but before he does, his daughter who's studying numismatics in school convinces him to let her search through them first. They spend an entire weekend sorting pennies by date, and there, buried among thousands of ordinary coins, they find a 1992 penny with obvious doubling on the obverse. She immediately recognizes it as special. They take it to a reputable coin dealer, and within days they're being contacted by serious collectors offering six-figure sums, eventually selling it at auction for an amount that paid for that daughter's entire college education. Or consider the story of a retired postal worker in California who inherited his uncle's modest coin collection, nothing fancy, just albums filled with pennies sorted by date. He's flipping through the 1990s section when something about one particular 1992 penny catches his attention. The AM in America looks different from all the others, closer together, and he remembers reading somewhere about a rare close AM variety. His hands start trembling as he realizes what he might be holding. He sends it to PCGS for grading, and when it comes back authenticated as a genuine 1992 close AM in MS-67 condition, his life changes forever because that single penny sells for more than he earned in his final 5 years of working. The auction records for rare 1992 Lincoln pennies are absolutely stunning, with prices that seem to defy logic until you understand the passion and dedication of serious numismatists. These aren't just people buying coins, they're collectors who have spent decades assembling complete sets, who need specific era varieties to fill gaps in their collections, and who are willing to pay top dollar for the right specimen. Heritage Auctions has facilitated several record-breaking sales of 1992 era pennies, with bidding wars that stretch across multiple countries as collectors from America, Europe, and Asia compete for the same rare coin, and each time a new specimen comes to market in high grade, the entire numismatic community watches with bated breath, because these auctions set new benchmarks and establish price guides for future sales. What makes the 1992 penny particularly exciting for everyday treasure hunters is that millions of these coins are still out there in circulation, sitting in jars, hiding in old purses, stuffed in desk drawers, waiting in coin rolls at banks, and unlike ancient coins or colonial currency, you don't need to be an archaeologist or have access to museum vaults to find them, you just need to look. The process of searching through pennies, called coin roll hunting, has become a popular hobby precisely because of coins like the 1992 era varieties. People buy rolls of pennies from banks, carefully examine each one, and occasionally, very occasionally, they find something that makes their heart stop. So what should you be looking for in your 1992 pennies? First and foremost, check that reverse design, get a magnifying glass and look carefully at the word America on the Lincoln Memorial side. Are the letters A and M close together with no gap, or is there clear space between them? If they're close together, you might have just found a close AM variety that could be worth serious money. Second, examine Lincoln's profile carefully, look for any doubling on his eye, his ear, his bow tie, the date, or the lettering. Even minor doubling can add value, but major doubling could mean you're holding a fortune. Third, check the alignment of the strike. Is everything centered properly, or is there significant blank planchet showing on one side indicating an off-center error? Fourth, Weigh your penny if you have a precise scale. A normal 1992 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, but if it weighs 3.11 grams, you've got a bronze planchet error that could be worth thousands or even millions depending on condition. Fifth, assess the overall condition, because a rare error in poor condition might be worth thousands, but the same error in pristine uncirculated condition could be worth millions. Look for coins with full original luster, no scratches or dings, and sharp strike details. And here's something crucial that many casual collectors don't realize: if you think you found a valuable error, do not clean it, do not touch it excessively with your bare hands, and do not store it in anything except a proper coin holder. The oils from your skin can damage the surface, cleaning can reduce the grade dramatically, and improper storage can cause corrosion that destroys value. Instead, handle it by the edges only, place it in a protective holder, and get it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and encapsulation. The grading fee is a tiny investment compared to the potential value of a genuine error coin. Now, before we move on to the next coin, let me remind you that we still have two more incredible pennies to cover, and the values are absolutely insane. One is worth $9 million, and the other is valued at $7 million, and trust me when I say that the errors and stories behind these coins are just as dramatic and just as thrilling as what we've already explored. The 1992 Lincoln penny proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that pocket change can become life-changing money, and that anyone who takes the time to actually look at their coins could discover a treasure that most people only dream about. So keep watching, keep learning, and most importantly, keep searching, because your fortune might be waiting in that jar of pennies sitting on your dresser right now. Next, the 1986 Lincoln penny, and just when you thought things couldn't get more extraordinary, here we are talking about a coin that has reached $9 million at auction, a penny with a D mint mark indicating it was produced at the Denver Mint, a coin that represents one of the most spectacular minting errors in modern American numismatic history. The year 1986 was remarkable for many reasons. It was the year of the Challenger disaster, the year Chernobyl shocked the world, the year the Statue of Liberty celebrated her centennial, and while all these monumental events were unfolding, the Denver Mint was churning out over 4.4 billion Lincoln cents, standard pennies meant for everyday circulation, coins that would buy bubble gum, pay for parking meters, and get tossed into wishing wells across America. The 1986 penny features the same beloved design that had graced American cents for decades, Lincoln's noble profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But among those billions of ordinary coins, something went extraordinarily wrong at the Denver facility, or should I say extraordinarily right for collectors who would later discover these incredible errors. Now, what makes the 1986 penny particularly fascinating is the variety and severity of errors that emerged from this specific year and mint combination. We're talking about multiple types of catastrophic minting mistakes that created coins so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that they've become the crown jewels of elite collections worldwide. One of the most sought-after 1986 errors is the double die obverse, and we're not talking about minor doubling that requires a microscope to see, we're talking about major doubling that jumps out at you, doubling so dramatic that Lincoln's profile appears almost three-dimensional, with his eye, his bow tie, his hair, and the date showing clear, distinct separation between the original strike and the doubled impression. These severe double die errors occur when the die that stamps the coin has been hubbed multiple times with a slight rotation or shift between impressions, creating a master die that will produce hundreds or even thousands of doubled coins before the error is discovered. But here's the thing, the US Mint has incredibly rigorous quality control, so most error dies are caught and destroyed before they can produce many coins, which means the surviving examples are phenomenally rare. Imagine holding a 1986 penny where you can literally see two distinct images of Lincoln's eye overlapping, where the letters in Liberty show clear doubling with separation you can measure, where the date, 1986, appears with such dramatic doubling that it looks like it was struck twice. A coin like this in high grade, say MS-67 or MS-68, could command millions at auction because serious collectors know they might wait decades before another specimen of comparable quality comes to market. But the double die isn't the only error that makes 1986 pennies extraordinarily valuable. We also have OFF center strikes that are absolutely breathtaking in their dramatic appearance, and I'm not talking about minor 5% or 10% off-center strikes, I'm talking about major misalignments where 50%, 60%, or even 70% of the design is shifted off the planchet. Picture a 1986 D penny where the entire Lincoln profile is shifted so far to one side that half of his face is missing, cut off by the edge of the coin, while the other side shows a massive blank crescent of unstruck copper. These coins look almost alien, like they came from a parallel universe where the laws of minting don't apply. What makes major off-center strikes so valuable is their rarity in high grades. You see, most off-center errors that make it into circulation get beaten up through handling, they get scratched, dinged, corroded, and damaged because they don't stack properly in coin rolls or coin counting machines. But when you find a major off-center strike in uncirculated condition, still showing full mint luster, sharp details on the struck portion, and no contact marks or damage, that's when collectors start bidding amounts that could buy a house. The 1986 D penny also produced some spectacular wrong planchet errors, where the Lincoln cent design was struck on blanks intended for completely different denominations. The holy grail of these errors is a 1986 D penny struck on a quarter planchet, creating a coin that's dramatically larger than a normal penny, made of the copper nickel-clad composition used for quarters, and weighing substantially more than the 2.5 grams of a standard post 1982 penny. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because they require multiple catastrophic failures in the mint's quality control systems. Planchets for different denominations are supposed to be kept in completely separate areas of the facility, fed into different presses, and monitored by different quality control inspectors, so for a quarter planchet to end up in a penny press is almost impossible, which is exactly why these errors are worth millions when they're discovered. Another incredibly valuable 1986 D error is the BROIDSTRIKE, which occurs when the collar that normally contains the planchet during striking is missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter. A broad-struck 1986 D penny will be noticeably larger than a normal penny, with a design that appears flattened and spread out, and edges that are completely smooth without the raised rim that normally contains the design. These coins are fascinating because they show what happens when the tremendous pressure of the coining press meets no resistance at the edges. The metal just flows outward, creating a coin that's the same thickness but larger in diameter than it should be. And when you find a broad strike error in high grade with full details and beautiful luster, collectors will pay enormous sums to add it to their collections. Then we have the bronze planchet errors from 1986 D, coins that were accidentally struck on leftover bronze blanks from before the 1982 composition change. Remember, after 1982, pennies were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, but occasionally old bronze planchets weighing 3.11 grams would turn up in the production line, and when a 1986 D penny was struck on one of these heavier blanks, it created a transitional error that's highly prized by collectors. The way to identify a bronze planchet error is through weight. You need a precision scale that measures to at least 0.01 grams, and if your 1986 D penny weighs 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, you found something special. These coins also sound different when dropped on a hard surface, with the bronze planchet errors producing a distinctive ring compared to the duller thud of zinc core pennies. Serious collectors can actually hear the difference. Now let's talk about the human element, because these coins don't just represent abstract value, they represent real people whose lives were changed by finding them. Imagine a construction worker in Colorado who always checked his pocket change during lunch breaks, just a habit he developed from watching coin collecting videos online, and one day in 2019 he's examining his pennies when he notices a 1986 D that looks wrong. The entire strike is shifted dramatically to one side, showing maybe 65% off-center with a huge blank area. His heart starts pounding as he realizes what he's found. He immediately puts it in a protective holder, takes it to a local coin shop for a preliminary opinion, and the dealer's eyes go wide when he sees it. Within weeks, that construction worker is sitting in an auction house watching collectors bid his coin up to an amount that represents more than he'd earned in the previous 5 years of hard labor. Or consider the story of a retired schoolteacher in Kansas who inherited her father's coin collection after he passed away. She's going through his albums page by page, not really knowing what she's looking for, just appreciating the memories of watching him sort coins at the kitchen table, and then she comes across a 1986 D penny in a special holder with a note that says, "Check this one." She examines it carefully with a magnifying glass and sees dramatic doubling on Lincoln's profile. Doubling so severe she can't believe it's real. She contacts Heritage Auctions, sends photos, and within hours she's being told that her father had discovered one of the finest known examples of a 1986 D double die error, a coin that would eventually sell for an amount that allowed her to retire comfortably and establish a scholarship fund in her father's name. The auction history of 1986 D error pennies is absolutely incredible, with record after record being broken as more collectors enter the market and the available supply of high-grade specimens remains essentially frozen. You see, most error coins that survive do so in lower grades, circulated condition with wear and damage, but the really valuable specimens are those that were plucked from circulation almost immediately, recognized as special, and preserved in pristine condition. Major auction houses like Stack's Bowers, Heritage Auctions, and Great Collections have facilitated sales that made headlines in the numismatic press, with bidding wars that stretched across continents as American collectors competed against European and Asian buyers, and each time a new 1986 D error comes to market in exceptional condition, the entire coin collecting community watches with intense interest, because these sales establish new price records and set benchmarks for future valuations. What makes the 1986 D penny particularly exciting for modern treasure hunters is that these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. Unlike ancient Roman coins or colonial American currency, you don't need archaeological expeditions or museum connections to find them, you just need to check your change. Millions of Americans have 1986 D pennies sitting in jars, hiding in old purses, stuffed in desk drawers, or mixed into coin collections they inherited from relatives, and most people have no idea what they might be worth. The process of examining your coins is actually quite simple once you know what to look for. First, sort your pennies by date and mint mark, separating out all the 1986 D specimens. Second, examine each one carefully with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking for doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering. Remember, you're looking for clear, distinct doubling where you can see separation between images, not just fuzzy or worn details. Third, check the alignment of the strike, look at whether the design is centered properly on both sides, or whether there's significant blank planchet showing indicating an off-center error. Even minor off-center strikes can add value, but major misalignments of 25% or more can be worth thousands or even millions depending on grade. Fourth, examine the edge of the coin. Does it have the normal raised rim, or is it smooth and flat indicating a broad strike error? Fifth, check the size of the coin. Does it appear larger than a normal penny, which might indicate a broad strike or wrong planchet error? Sixth, weigh your coin if you have access to a precision scale. A normal 1986 D penny should weigh 2.5 grams, but if it weighs significantly more, especially around 3.11 grams, you might have a bronze planchet error worth serious money. And here's something absolutely critical that many beginners don't understand: never clean your coins, never. Even if a coin looks dirty or tarnished, cleaning it will destroy its value, sometimes reducing a coin worth thousands down to pocket change value. Professional collectors and grading services can tell immediately if a coin has been cleaned, and they penalize it severely in the grading process. Instead, if you find a coin you think might be valuable, handle it only by the edges, place it in a protective holder or flip, and get it to a professional grading service for authentication. The small fee for grading could confirm that you're holding a fortune. The stories of 1986 D penny discoveries continue to this day, with new finds being authenticated every single year. Just last year, a college student in Texas found a major off-center 1986 D in a roll of pennies she bought from her bank for a class project on coin collecting. That single coin paid for her entire semester's tuition. A retired veteran in Florida discovered a 1986 D double die error in a jar of coins his grandchildren had been filling for years. That coin sold at auction for enough money to buy a new car. These aren't fairy tales or exaggerated stories, these are real events that happen to real people, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be next. And speaking of what's next, we still have one more incredible penny to cover today, the final coin in our lineup, and let me tell you, we're saving one of the best for last. we're talking about a penny worth $7 million, a coin with errors so spectacular and a story so compelling that it's going to blow your mind. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next is absolutely worth the wait. Last, the 1985 Lincoln penny, and we've finally arrived at our grand finale, the fourth and final treasure in today's incredible journey through the world of rare Lincoln cents, a coin worth $7 million that represents the perfect culmination of everything we've discussed, combining dramatic errors, fascinating history, and life-changing value into one extraordinary penny. The year 1985 holds a special place in American history. It was the year of Live Aid, the year Back to the Future captured our imaginations, the year the Cold War was beginning its final chapter with Gorbachev's rise to power, and while the world was transforming around us, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing over 12 billion Lincoln cents combined. Ordinary pennies that were meant to facilitate commerce, fill cash registers, and jingle in millions of American pockets without anyone giving them a second thought. The 1985 Lincoln penny features the same timeless design that had become an American icon, Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile created by Victor David Brenner on the obverse, and Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had graced our cents since 1959, but among those billions of standard coins, something absolutely extraordinary happened at the mints. Errors so rare and so spectacular that they've become the stuff of numismatic legend. What makes the 1985 penny particularly special is the combination of error types that emerged from this year. We're talking about multiple catastrophic minting mistakes that created coins so unusual, so visually stunning, and so rare that they've achieved almost mythical status among serious collectors worldwide. One of the most valuable 1985 errors is the double die obverse, and when I say double die, I'm talking about the kind of dramatic, eye-popping doubling that makes even non-collectors stop and stare. Imagine Lincoln's profile with such severe doubling that his eye appears tripled, his bow tie shows distinct separation creating an almost three-dimensional effect, and the date, 1985, is doubled so dramatically that the numbers seem to leap off the surface of the coin. These major double die errors occur when the die used to strike coins has been hubbed multiple times with rotation or displacement between each impression, creating a master die that contains overlapping images, and while quality control at the U.S. Mint is designed to catch these errors before flawed dies enter production, occasionally one slips through the cracks and produces a limited number of spectacular error coins before someone notices and destroys the die. The surviving examples become incredibly valuable because they represent a finite population. Once the error die is destroyed, no more can ever be made, which means the existing specimens are all that will ever exist. Imagine a 1985 penny with severe obverse doubling graded at MS 68 or MS 69 by PCGS or NGC, still showing full original mint luster, sharp strike details, and absolutely no contact marks or imperfections. A coin like this could easily command millions at auction because serious collectors understand that opportunities to acquire such specimens come maybe once in a lifetime. But the excitement doesn't stop with double die errors, because 1985 also produced some of the most spectacular off-center strikes ever recorded on modern Lincoln cents. We're talking about coins where the entire design is shifted so dramatically that 70% or even 80% of the planchet shows the strike, while a massive crescent of blank copper takes up the remaining space. These extreme off-center errors are phenomenally rare in high grades because most misaligned strikes that escape the mint get damaged through normal handling. They don't stack properly, they jam in counting machines, they get bent or scratched or corroded, but when you find a major off-center 1985 penny in pristine uncirculated condition, still showing the full glory of its dramatic error with beautiful mint luster and sharp details on the struck portion, that's when collectors open their checkbooks and start writing numbers with lots of zeros. The visual impact of a major off-center strike is absolutely stunning. It's a coin that looks like it came from a parallel universe where the laws of minting were temporarily suspended, and holding one in your hand gives you a tangible connection to that split second when everything went wrong at the mint, or from a collector's perspective, when everything went magnificently right. Then we have the wrong planchet errors from 1985, coins that were accidentally struck on blanks intended for completely different denominations, and these are among the rarest and most valuable minting mistakes that can occur. The most spectacular examples are 1985 pennies struck on dime planchets, creating coins that are smaller than normal pennies, made of the copper-nickel-clad composition used for dimes, and weighing only 2.268 grams instead of the 2.5 grams of a standard post-1982 penny. These coins are extraordinarily rare because they require an almost impossible series of failures in the mint separation and quality control systems. Planchets for different denominations are supposed to be kept in completely isolated areas of the facility, transported on different conveyor systems, and fed into different presses with different die sets. For a dime planchet to end up in a penny press means that multiple safeguards failed simultaneously, which is why these errors are so incredibly scarce. When a 1985 penny on a dime planchet comes to auction in high grade, the bidding can reach absolutely insane levels as collectors compete for what might be a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Another fascinating error from 1985 is the BROADSTRIKE, where the collar that normally restrains the planchet during striking is missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended diameter under the tremendous pressure of the coining press. A broad-struck 1985 penny will measure noticeably larger than a standard cent, sometimes 20 mm or even 21 mm in diameter compared to the normal 19 mm, with a design that appears flattened and spread out, and edges that are completely smooth without the raised rim that normally frames the design. These coins are absolutely fascinating from a technical perspective because they demonstrate the raw power of the minting process. We're talking about hundreds of tons of pressure being applied to a small piece of metal, and when there's nothing to contain that force at the edges, the planchet just flows outward like liquid. Broad strikes in high grade with full strike details and beautiful original luster can command premium prices because they're both rare and visually impressive, the kind of coin that draws attention when displayed at coin shows or exhibited in competition. The 1985 penny also produced bronze planchet errors, coins that were accidentally struck on leftover bronze blanks from before the 1982 composition change. These transitional errors weigh 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams for copper-plated zinc pennies, and they represent a tangible link to the era when pennies were made primarily of copper. The way to authenticate a bronze planchet error is through precise weighing using a scale accurate to at least 0.01 grams, and when you find a 1985 penny that tips the scales at 3.11 grams, you know you've discovered something special. These coins also have different physical properties than standard zinc ore pennies. They sound different when dropped on a hard surface, producing a distinctive ring instead of a dull thud, and they age differently over time, developing a natural patina that's completely different from the corrosion pattern seen on zinc ore coins. Now let's talk about the absolutely incredible human stories behind these discoveries, because this is where numismatics transforms from abstract numbers into real life. Imagine a single mother in Pennsylvania working 2 jobs to make ends meet, barely scraping by, who inherits a small coin collection from her grandfather after he passes away. She's going through it one evening after her kids are asleep, not really knowing what she's looking at, just feeling close to her grandfather's memory, when she notices something ODD about a 1985 penny in a special holder. The doubling on Lincoln's profile is so dramatic that even with her untrained eye, she can tell something is different. She takes it to a local coin dealer the next day on her lunch break, and the dealer's jaw literally drops when he examines it under magnification. Within a week she's being contacted by heritage auctions. Within a month that single penny has sold for an amount that allows her to quit one of her jobs, pay off her debts, and start a college fund for her children. All because her grandfather had the wisdom to save an unusual coin he'd found decades earlier. Or consider the story of a retired firefighter in Oregon who took up coin roll hunting as a hobby after his retirement, buying boxes of pennies from his bank and searching through them methodically while watching television in the evenings. He'd been doing this for 3 years, finding mostly ordinary coins with an occasional wheat penny or minor error. When one night he's going through a roll of 1985 pennies and finds one that's dramatically off-center, showing maybe 75% of the design with a massive blank crescent. His years of experience immediately tell him this is major. He can barely sleep that night, and the next morning he's at the post office sending it to PCGS for grading and authentication. When it comes back certified as genuine and grades at MS 66, he puts it up for auction and watches in amazement as the bidding climbs higher and higher, eventually selling for more than he'd earned in his final year before retirement. These aren't isolated incidents. These are stories that play out regularly in the numismatic world, because rare coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. Unlike buried treasure or sunken ships, you don't need expensive equipment or exotic locations to find them, you just need to look at your change. The auction records for rare 1985 Lincoln pennies read like a financial thriller, with prices that seem almost unbelievable until you understand the passion and dedication of serious collectors. These are people who have spent decades assembling comprehensive collections, who need specific era varieties to complete their sets, and who view these coins not just as metal objects but as pieces of history. When a major 1985 era comes to auction in exceptional condition, the numismatic community takes notice. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, Great Collections, and other major auction houses have facilitated sales that made front-page news in coin collecting publications, with bidding wars that stretched across multiple time zones as collectors from North America, Europe, and Asia competed for the same rare specimen. Each record-breaking sale establishes new benchmarks and confirms that the market for exceptional era coins continues to strengthen year after year. What makes this particularly exciting for everyday Americans is that 1985 pennies are everywhere. They're sitting in jars on dressers, hiding in old purses and wallets, mixed into coin collections that people inherited and never really examined, stuffed in desk drawers and piggy banks, waiting in unopened rolls at banks across the country. Every single day, people are finding valuable coins they didn't know they had, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be one of them. The key is knowing what to look for and actually taking the time to examine your coins instead of just spending them or ignoring them. So let me give you a comprehensive guide to checking your 1985 pennies. First, sort all your pennies by date and separate out every single 1985 specimen you can find, whether it has a mint mark or not. Second, examine each coin carefully with a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for any doubling on Lincoln's profile, particularly his eye, his ear, his bow tie, and his hair, and also check the date and the word Liberty for doubling, because even minor doubling can add significant value, but major doubling could mean you're holding a fortune. Third, check the strike alignment on both the obverse and reverse. Is the design centered properly, or is there blank planchet showing on one or more sides indicating an off-center strike? Remember, even 10 to 15% off-center can add value, but 50% or more off-center in high grade can be worth millions. Fourth, examine the edges of your coin carefully. Does it have the normal raised rim all the way around, or are the edges smooth and flat indicating a broad strike error? Fifth, look at the overall size of the coin. Does it appear larger or smaller than other pennies, which might indicate a broad strike or wrong planchet error? Sixth, if you have access to a precision scale, weigh your 1985 pennies. A normal post 1982 penny should weigh 2.5 grams, but if you find one that weighs 3.11 grams, you've potentially discovered a bronze planchet error worth serious money. And if you find one that weighs around 2.268 grams, you might have a penny struck on a dime planchet, which would be extraordinarily valuable. Seventh, assess the overall condition of any interesting coins you find. Are there scratches, dings, or corrosion, or does the coin look like it just came from the mint? Remember, the same error in poor condition might be worth thousands, but in pristine uncirculated condition could be worth millions. And here's something absolutely essential that I cannot stress enough: if you find a coin you think might be valuable, do not clean it under any circumstances. Even if it looks dirty or tarnished, even if you think cleaning it will make it look better, don't do it. Cleaning a coin can reduce its value from thousands or millions down to face value in seconds, because professional graders can always tell when a coin has been cleaned, and they penalize it severely. Instead, handle any potentially valuable coins only by the edges using clean hands or cotton gloves, place them immediately in protective holders or flips designed for coins, and get them to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and encapsulation. The grading fee, usually between $30 and $100 depending on the service level, is a tiny investment compared to the potential value of a genuine error coin. The beauty of searching for rare 1985 pennies is that it costs you nothing except time. You're not buying lottery tickets or making risky investments, you're simply examining coins you already have or can obtain at face value from banks. Many successful treasure hunters buy boxes of pennies from their banks, search through them systematically, and return the ordinary ones while keeping anything interesting. It's a hobby that's not only potentially profitable but also educational and fun, giving you a deeper appreciation for American coinage and the fascinating errors that occasionally occur. And the thrill of discovery is absolutely real. Imagine the moment when you're going through a stack of pennies and suddenly you spot something that makes your heart skip a beat, that instant when you realize you might be holding something worth thousands or even millions of dollars, that rush of adrenaline as you grab your magnifying glass to examine it more closely and confirm what you're seeing. That feeling is what keeps coin collectors coming back day after day, roll after roll, because they know that the next great discovery could happen at any moment. As we wrap up our incredible journey through these 4 amazing Lincoln pennies, I want you to really absorb what we've learned today. We've explored 4 different years of Lincoln cents, the 1984 worth $13 million, the 1992 valued at $11 million, the 1986 D that reached $9 million at auction, and finally this 1985 penny worth $7 million. And every single one of these coins started as ordinary pocket change that someone, somewhere, recognized as special. These aren't ancient artifacts locked away in museums, these aren't Spanish doubloons buried on desert islands, these are modern American coins that could literally be in your possession right now. The total value we've discussed today is $40 million across just 4 pennies, and while those represent the absolute finest examples in exceptional grades, even lower grade versions of these errors can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, life-changing money for most people. So here's what I want you to do right now. As soon as this video ends, I want you to grab every jar, piggy bank, old purse, desk drawer, or coin collection you have and start looking at your pennies. Sort them by date, examine them carefully, check for the errors we've discussed, and who knows, you might just discover that you've been sitting on a fortune all along. Don't let another day go by assuming your coins are worthless, don't spend another penny without at least glancing at the date, and don't throw away inherited coin collections without having them examined by professionals, because somewhere out there, right at this very moment, there are people who are 1 coin away from financial freedom, and there's absolutely no reason why that person can't be you. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey, for watching until the very end, and for being part of this amazing community of treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with anyone you know who might have old pennies lying around, because you could literally change someone's life by introducing them to this information. Keep searching, keep learning, and remember that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places. Your fortune might be waiting in your pocket right now, and the only way to find out is to look. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your next penny be worth millions.